All right, let's get this 2017 Sherco 450 review started. I'm Brian Pierce, your purveyor of awesome, and this is the full review of the 2017 Sherco 450 SEF-R Factory Edition motorcycle. And I have to tell you, I didn't know what I was going to think of this motorcycle before I got it, and I have been elated with it. Obviously, I am going to get into the nitty-gritty, but thoroughly impressed with this French motorcycle. I will let you know my decisions toward the end about what I'm going to do. So this motorcycle will be for sale at the Tennessee Knockout. Clay Stuckey's going to be selling this guy a little bit of a discount. Obviously, it's been ridden and it's been demoed. So you don't have to talk to him about prices like that, but I just wanted you guys to know if you were going to be on the lookout for purchasing a Sherco 450, definitely reach out to Clay or reach out to a Sherco dealer and try to see if you can snag this bad boy, because we rode it, but she's clean now and she's ready for a new home. Hopefully you guys got a chance to watch the unboxing video. There's an entire playlist out there for all of the videos that I've done about the Shercos. If you're kind of wanting to know the process that I went through of how I reviewed this motorcycle, start there. If this is the first video you're seeing, that's a much better place to start. Go to the unboxing, go to the first ride, go to the second ride, go to some of the other updates that we've done, and then obviously all the rides in Colorado, which we will be putting out a full documentary for Seat Time Adventures 3.0. What I wanted to make sure you guys realized is that there are tons of things about this motorcycle that I tried to kind of learn about as I was getting into some of those early rides, but it wasn't until Colorado that I really gelled with the motorcycle. A lot of those first rides were setup rides, kind of like learning what I didn't like and then what I needed to change to adjust for the way that I like a motorcycle to feel. So obviously with the unboxing video, it was just fun. New gadgets, new tech, new motorcycles, anything like that. When you pull it out of the box, you get that new motorcycle smell or that new whatever smell, and it's just invigorating. And that was why we did an unboxing video. So what that first ride really was a chance for me to figure out where suspension was. We didn't know, and by we, Clay and I, if I was going to be right on the cusp of the springs that come stock for this motorcycle or if I needed to get lighter springs. It was that first ride that told me right away I need to get softer springs. So we got the softer springs, and then if you go to the second video, which is the second ride, you also see me adding all of the protection parts that we put in there from Bulletproof Designs, and then of course the XC Gear Mako 360 and the Spurz foot pegs, putting those on along with softening the springs for my 181 in the nude pound frame. You know, maybe 182, 183 after this bad boy from Colorado, but we'll see there. I need to sit. Again, a lot of those rides gave me a really good chance to kind of like start to feel out the motorcycle. Do I want to be in the badassery mode with the map switch? Do I want to be in the not badassery mode? I'll be honest, for a lot of it, I was riding it in the lesser map of the two. But it wasn't until we got to Colorado that I started to feel so much more comfortable on the bike that 90% of the time I was riding in the badassery mode opposed to the lesser mode, just because I started to gel with the bike a lot more, and it is extremely usable power. I think part of me was afraid too that I'm like, oh, I don't ride 450s a lot. I'm afraid of the power, which that was not the case. In badassery mode, this bike was a hoss, and I loved it. And I only went down to the lesser map whenever it got really, really rocky or really, really slick, just so that way everything was tamed down a little bit and the bike wouldn't kind of try to jump out from underneath me, just because it has a ton of torque, and it can shake and it can move on you. So when we went to Barnwell was when I really started to get into some single track. And if you go and watch that ride that we did there at Barnwell, you'll hear me talking about, oh man, I need to move the levers down 2 millimeters. I need to move the levers in 5 millimeters. It's little weird positioning things like that that you just don't figure out until you've really started to worry about the more important things. The suspension is always the first thing that I'm going to try to figure out. And then from there, it's going to be handling and cockpit kind of type stuff. As well, when I did the first ride, I did not have the Mako 360 on. So bar positioning, you know, like all those kinds of little things are what you see me progress through those videos. So you're not only getting a review, but you're getting kind of the way that I break down a motorcycle and start to get used to something new. So hopefully that's beneficial to you guys, and if not, that's okay too. I hopefully you just enjoyed it anyway. So let's really start to chat about this motorcycle. Right away, when I wheeled it into my van, you know, put the bike together, I noticed how light the bike felt when you would just move it back, left to right, back and forth. And then when you would push the motorcycle, you're like, the numbers on this thing tell me it's a very heavy motorcycle. And say very heavy, it's heavier than what you would see in a lot of other motorcycles. And I think it's 15 pounds heavier than the 300 4-stroke edition. So numbers wise, it's heavier, right? But it did not feel heavy. And I immediately was like, wow, this is gonna be interesting if this bike feels this light when I ride it. And so coming into that, like, the bike handled amazing. Again, it took me a while. It wasn't really until the Barnwell video, and then of course that first day in Colorado is where I just really felt how amazing this bike handles. But you don't feel the weight of the motorcycle. And again, I'm not an engineer, but I want to say that it's either placement of the engine, the way that they handle rotational mass, everything's just lower and centered with the center of gravity, the way the frame is set up. This bike handles amazing for a 450, right? Again, not a huge 450 4-stroke rider, but I never had an issue with it. I actually really enjoyed riding this motorcycle. And then when you come into the way that the bike turned, taking that portion of handling, I haven't ridden a motorcycle that turned as well as this motorcycle did. One of the first things I always do on a KTM, right, is I bring the forks up about 2 or 3 millimeters in the triple clamps from where they come stock. I put the bar mounts in the front position, but backwards, right? So front position on the triple clamp, but then turn backwards. So that's where I put the handlebars, and then I immediately take the headstop bolts and thread those in all the way, or just take them out. Because on a KTM, you need that extra turning radius. You'll get into a turn and it'll lock on you, and you just can't go anymore. I didn't do that on this Sherco because I wanted to see how it felt. So I never moved the bars forward, and it felt awesome. I probably should have done that just to see how it felt, but honestly it felt so good where it was. So it's in the back position on the triple clamp, but it's still, the bar mounts are still facing forward. I didn't have to move in the head tube stop bolts until we got into Colorado and started hitting some of the switchbacks. And if you've ridden there, you know what I'm talking about. We're not talking about like, oh, it's a 180-degree turn. We're talking like crazy tight, kind of almost over-rotated switchbacks. I mean, and so that was the only time that I even had to consider thinking about moving those stop bolts in. This bike handles amazing, and I'm going to tell you about my 4th day even later about how it differs from the KTM because of some mechanicals that we had to deal with. I just decided, you know what, I'm going to save myself 2 hours and I'm going to ride the KTM on the 4th day, and that got interesting. So stepping deeper into the handling of the bike is the suspension. So it's not just frame and weight and cockpit and things like that. Suspension plays a big part into how the bike handles. And what I thought was pretty awesome is I didn't ever go, man, I really need to revalve this suspension, or man, this is bucking, or wow, like I can't fix things that feel weird to me in the situation I'm in without using the clickers, which the past 2 KTMs I've bought, I've immediately sent my suspension off to get done after riding. I was like, wow, especially with the 4CS forks and closed cartridge and all the stuff that goes along there. I know you guys know what I'm talking about. So these are WP Explorer forks and shock, but it is Sherco valving, right? So Sherco decides how they want these forks to perform. So anybody that's going, oh, the KTM XCW has Explorer forks, I haven't heard really good things about those things. WP Explorer forks are good. It's the valving potentially on the XCWs and the KTMs that comes with those bikes that may not be that good, because this fork and shock combo on this Sherco 450, stellar. And again, I wasn't racing, let's be honest about that, so I probably would prefer a tad bit stiffer valving if I were racing, because I would probably be in less technical trail, and I would be going a little bit higher speeds, and I would be attacking a lot more obstacles, right? So I would need to make sure that it doesn't dive into the stroke as I'm hitting some of this stuff going much faster riding a dirt bike, right? Racing these things, because I am an A rider. I would be in the 30 plus A class. Those guys are faster than me, don't get me wrong, but that's kind of like where I would be, and so that tells you how I would ride the motorcycle. Engine-wise, let's break down the 450. What I loved, and again, I liked it until I rode the KTM on the 4th day, and then I loved the wide ratio transmission that this Sherco has. The 6 gears that are there, man, those things for technical riding, right? This is when we were in Colorado. They were phenomenal. I never was in the wrong gear. Now, I will be completely honest, in Colorado, I was running stock gearing. I would have preferred to have had a 51 or 52 tooth rear. I know that a lot of people will just go down a whole tooth in the front on the counter sprocket, but you know, that's technically 3 teeth on the back, and I'm always kind of in that, I don't like going that low. I think on a 2-stroke that works a little bit better, but not on a 4-stroke. And so I would go 1 or 2 bigger on the rear sprocket, and I think this would have been awesome. But the only time I really needed that was on long kind of technical climbs where it got kind of windy. I'm getting out of breath and everything like that. Like, that's where I would have liked to have had just a little more grunt in first gear. Or maybe what would have happened is I would have been able to sit in second gear and clutch a little bit more, and I wouldn't have felt like I had to go into first and then rev it and or, you know, ride really torquey in third. So it would have just kind of moved a little bit of where all the gears are at around for some of those technical climbs. But other than that, yeah, no, I was running stock gearing, so I really had no qualms with the stock gearing. I thought the stock gearing worked great. What I like too is that this bike seemed to have power everywhere. When you're kind of in the, you know, the low torque settings, this bike has a ton of torque. When you're kind of mid-range and blurping along and just kind of needing to get some power, you could easily get some power. And then at the same time too, you know, you could rev it out. There were not a lot of times, you know, let's be honest, we were doing a lot of technical trail riding, that I'm going to get into the top of the rev limiter, to the top part of the engine. There are times where we're going a little bit faster down single tracks, but I still would kind of consider that, you know, top of mid-range opposed to hitting like the top of the top range where you're going to potentially be, you know, maxing out the engine. The honest truth is I'm never somebody that does too much with the engine, right? Like, that's not, I feel that bikes are great for the style of riding I do. I'm a generic guy on a motorcycle who likes to ride. I like to go fast and I like to race and do crazy stuff, right? All that kinds of stuff. But I'm not someone who's trying to make a career of this anymore. So I don't ever typically mess with that kind of stuff. But you know, sometimes you're gonna feel that some things are lacking, so you're gonna kind of like compensate in other ways. Like on my 350, I put a recluse in it. This 450, I wouldn't put a recluse in it. I rode this thing in Colorado for 5 days, and I would not put a recluse in it. That's how well the engine and the clutch worked. That I never really felt like I needed to need that help. There is a time and a place for a recluse because I've loved having one for the past 4 to 5 years in all of my motorcycles, because it is just having that kind of that thing in your back pocket that can help you in those times when you start to get tired on those long days, so you don't stall the motorcycle and have to deal with this, that, or the other. So if you're gonna get a recluse, do it. I got no qualms with that. I was just extremely surprised how easy it was for me to function on the motorcycle in Colorado in all the technical nasty trails without a recluse. I really thought I was going to have many more issues, but I did not. So that was very surprising, and I was glad that it happened because it made me appreciate the motorcycle that Sherco makes that much more. So if you look at an XCW, one of the things that still happens for KTM is those are still PDS, right? They're linkage-less bikes. This is, you know, the enduro version, which would kind of match up with the XCW in the KTM line. But this is a linkage suspension. I didn't really catch it on anything, which is awesome. I know that some people, myself included, have had issues with that on the XC. If you look at my 350 XC, I have the Stillwell Performance Fastway guard underneath there. There's linkage protection. You know what? That thing is beat to shit. You know why? Because it hits and catches on all kinds of stuff. And this really was not that bad, so I did not catch it on very much. And if I did, it just kind of grazed right through, and it was a great time. Suspension always worked really good in the rear, and yeah, no qualms about the fact that you got linkage suspension on an enduro motorcycle. So let's talk about why day 4 I had to ride the KTM, and I think that this is going to tell you about the longevity of this motorcycle and how well the engineering goes into this engine. When we went up Horseshoe, back down South Courts into Pitkin, when we got to lunch, half the team was dead. Some people were already hurt just from previous incidents throughout the week. So myself, Todd Slavic, and 2 of the other dudes from Colorado were like, hey, well, let's go do some more riding. Like, okay, cool. So we kind of backtracked our way in a fun route to get back to Canyon Creek so we could do Juanita and Quakey Mountain again. Well, we do Juanita, and we're like, wow, that is awesome. Yeah, go watch that on day 3 because Todd and I were on it. But we get to the end of Juanita, and Todd goes, after we get done, and Daniel and Ben are back, they're like, hey, do you guys smell oil burning? We're like, yeah, kinda. So we're like looking around though, like, so we all check our bikes to make sure it's like nobody's leaking any oil, that nobody had a case that was cracked or anything that had been hit, nothing. So we start going down Juanita Pass Road to get to Quakey Mountain Trail. We get about half mile into Quakey Mountain, and I'm like, you know what? This burning oil smell in my mind, right? Like, I'm like, I really want to check this motorcycle out a little bit more. So I come back and I let the bike cool down. I pull off the radiator cap, and I was like, oh, I'm a little low on radiator coolant. So I put coolant in the bike, and that's when we noticed, we're like, oh man, there's a tiny crack down here in the T-hose, in the T-clamp down here, you know, coming out of the radiator. So we try to figure out how to fix that, right? But obviously, what I wanted to tell you guys is you got to think about it like, you know, this bike was low on radiator fluid, right? So we're smelling this burning radiator fluid kind of slowly leaking out of this cracked T and kind of coming onto the engine and stuff like that. But the bike never acted funky, right? Like, what I'm saying is that this engine is so well built and so well lubricated that the oil inside of it never had any issues, anything like that, from what was probably on its way to being a detrimental situation in the radiators or in the coolant of the engine. So we got it fixed, we got home, filled it up with water. Obviously then at that point babied it back just because we're like, well, you know what? This is that situation where we don't really know what's going on. So we baby it back, we get back, we cross the creek, we're alive, we're great. And this motorcycle has been kicking ass and taking names since. I'm so impressed with this Sherco. Now, so due to what we had to put together for the end of the third day to get back, I was like, well, I can fix the T, I can change the oil, I can redo the radiator fluid. My rear tire was totally shot, so I would have had to replace the rear tire. I was like, you know what? I brought my KTM 350 in case a bike died. A bike didn't die. I just wanted to save myself 2 hours of mechanic work. I was like, I'm going to go ride my 350 the next day. So a lot of people left for the fourth day. So Todd and I we had our planned out. You can go check that out in the day 4 recap what we rode. But I was very surprised how much I did not like riding my KTM 350 again. Going on the XC, you know, it's the 5-speed, so it's not the wide ratio transmission. I hated that. I could not get myself in the right gear. I had a lot of trouble remembering to rev out the engine because it's a 350. You got to kind of rev it out. Now, granted, 450 probably running like a 350 in Colorado. The 350 is probably running like a 300 in Colorado just because of lack of power, less air. But I was really surprised. The thing that got me the most was how much of a pig that 350 felt like. It was so heavy up top. Like, I could not flick the motorcycle around like I could this Sherco. Again, that goes back to the handling part, and that mentally is what gets me and how I go, holy crap. Like, before I ever rode that 350, after having ridden the 450 back to back, I thought this bike handled well. After riding the 350, this bike handles phenomenally well. This bike turns phenomenally well. The power to weight ratio is phenomenal. And so I am actually going to purchase a Sherco from Clay Stuckey. We're gonna get this one back to him. So I've done a little bit of talking with him. I've been on a 4-stroke for the past 2 years, and if you guys go back anything to the Riding with Woody, you guys know that I'm on a 2 to 3 year stint. I like to change it up, and so instead of actually purchasing this 450, what I'm going to do is I'm going to purchase a 2018 Sherco 300 2-stroke from Clay Stuckey. I'm not riding as much as I used to, all the kinds of stuff that goes along with that, so any 4-stroke, because of extra torque and everything that goes into it, is more on the legs, more on the shoulders, and it just kind of beats you up a little bit more until you get those riding muscles back. And I know that there's not a great chance that I'm going to be able to go out every weekend and ride and be on the motorcycle, and I feel like timing-wise, it's that time to go back to a 2-stroke. Let's go back to a 2-stroke. Let's relearn that. Let's have fun with that again. I can make you guys some fun videos, and I think that that's what's going to happen. So I'm going to be selling my 350. So I have a 2015 350 XC that once I get this back and we get back from the Tennessee Knockout this coming up weekend, I'm going to go ahead and start prepping to sell. So if anybody out there is interested, all you got to do is, hit the comments, message us, email me, message us on Facebook, any of that kinds of stuff, and I can get you all the information. But it'll be about a week and a half probably till I have that bike up for sale, because of just I want to make sure that it's good to go. Like, it's been a long time. I want to replace some levers. I want to do all the fluids and make sure, bleed everything, and just, you know, get it in the best tip-top shape that I can. What have you guys thought? I've had a lot of fun doing this. Did it matter? You know, do you care? Did you enjoy it? Are you interested in Shercos now? I really would like your feedback, because it'll help direct me on how I'm gonna potentially find more, you know, videos to do for you guys in the future. Should I do more motorcycles? Should I do any kind of reviews? Should we just, you know, I'm not doing the show again. That's way too much work. This has been a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed doing that, and I would love to continue it. I just want to make sure that there's an audience that's going to enjoy it. So, hey man, definitely go check out everything that's out there for the Sherco playlist. All the Riding with Woody stuff is out there as well. We're getting ready to go to the Tennessee Knockout. I'm going to be working with Ride X365 to put together the Photo Epic. So the Photo Epic this year will not live on Seat Time. It is going to live on Ride X365, and I am going to be controlling all the social media for those guys this weekend. So if you want to get in good with Ride X365, make sure you come over, send me some beers, and we'll take pictures together and get you guys Insta-famous. I'm just kidding, but seriously, we're going to have a lot of fun. So look for us at the TKO, at the Tennessee Knockout. It's going to be a badass weekend. Really looking forward to seeing what this new format brings. It's going to be pretty nuts. So please, if you have any questions, find a local Sherco dealer. If you can't do that, ShercoOffroad.com. Get in touch with Clay Stuckey. He'll be able to point you in the right direction to where you can purchase your Sherco, or to learn more information about a Sherco. He does have the 2018s now. This was a 2017. Also as well, I'm going to be doing a review on the Mako 360s and the Spurz foot pegs. So be on the lookout for that. But right now, that's my quick assessment for you guys. Like, if I can do this, like double thumbs up kind of a thing. Yeah, those shits are awesome. That's the way to do it. So remember, I'm Brian Pierce, your purveyor of awesome. You can help us out by picking up a couple t-shirts if you'd like to. Go to fpmg.threadless.com. You can become a patron on Patreon, which is patreon.com/seattime. You can go to seattime.co/support. Use any of the affiliate links there. It doesn't cost you anything more. It just gives us a little bit of a kickback for saying thank you of, you know, putting out content. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast, because I'm going to be putting out more information there. We just did a TKO ramp-up show, getting ready to do some Blackwater 100 discussions with some people that have done the Blackwater 100, and lots more in the works. So hey, thanks again for paying attention. I always enjoy a pint full of awesome, and I guess we'll see you on the internet.